I did not just simply sit around and spend time just trying to spin theories. I had certain experiences that prompted me to think about some of these issues. And with respect to the issue of having a right to run my grandfather's business, for example, I simply looked at what, in theory, was his right. After slavery, what was his right to, or the rights of people who were near me, who lived around me, to just simply use their land and grow their food and be able to eat it or to sell it. Those were the kinds of examples that I would use. I, for example, remember vividly my grandfather, whom I thought was a strong man. And when you're small, he's a giant of a man, and certainly a man with great pride. He would literally have to get a drink before he went to the licensing bureau in Savannah to get the license that he needed to drive his oil truck. Those were the kinds of questions I was looking at. Now, I did not intend first to say that this was a basis for constitutional adjudication. I think I could have said that if I had intended that. The second point is that I have said, and I believe, that the Lochner-era cases were properly overruled, and that the health and safety, the court does not serve as a super legislature over this body or the political branches.
Well, you said you could have stated that. On the other hand, in all of these writings on natural law, you could have made the distinction, could you not, that you were speaking of a theory and not a constitutional adjudicatory process.
I think, Senator, if I were a judge, if I gave some of these speeches after I went to the bench, I would have made that distinction. But at the time, I was not a judge, and certainly did not think that at that time that it was necessary to draw that distinction when it really, at that point, wasn't relevant. I felt that, as I stated in my hearings for the Court of Appeals, that this is political theory. This is not constitutional adjudication or methodology. And I stand by that. I think it's the distinction is an important one, and it's one that certainly I didn't draw a clear and exacting line sometimes simply because I wasn't in the judiciary. I didn't say I'm not saying this or I'm not saying that, but it was not my intent at any point to provide a basis for adjudicating constitutional law cases.
You, in this article in the Harvard Journal of Law and Public Policy on page 66, this statement appears: to believe that natural rights thinking allows for arbitrary decision-making would be to misunderstand constitutional jurisprudence based on higher law. That appears, it has the appearance of advocating natural law in the field of jurisprudence and decision-making on constitutional adjudication.
Senator, no, my point is that, and jurisprudence that I would use there would be in the broadest sense, but I still take the position, and took the position then, that this would serve as a background to understanding what our Constitution was for. I was not speaking as a judge. I was not setting out rules of analysis or adjudication. I was trying to establish a sense among conservatives or among the audience that here is the background to our Constitution. Now, our founding fathers took bits and pieces of what they believed may have been natural law, and they placed that in the Constitution. But once it's in the Constitution, it's no longer required that anyone refer to natural law. It's a part of our positive law. And I think that that's the appropriate distinction. It's the one that I certainly attempted to make there. At no point did I intend to say, look, this is an approach or methodology for constitutional adjudication. And that was the point that I attempted to make again in my Court of Appeals confirmation. It has no role. I think that if, as a judge, I had stated, here is a new approach for constitutional adjudication, then I think you would be right, that there would be concern. But I was speaking solely as a chairman of a commission who was interested in this debate and advancing this idea, but not in adjudicating cases.
The concept that natural law is a political theory. Most political theories that are developed involve protections, adjudicatory concepts or processes. You eliminate as a part of the comprehensiveness of the natural law theory or natural law philosophy protection, rights, or the adjudicatory rights. Now, in most political theories, you would have something, if it is adopted, that would provide for protection, which is judicial decision making. Are you separating from the natural law theory adjudicatory processes?
What I am saying, Senator, is this, that the individuals who drafted our Constitution, let's say our 14th Amendment, the abolitionists, for example, believed in natural law. And to the extent that they reduced it to a positive document, it appears in the Constitution. But one need not appeal to whatever they believed beyond the understanding what they intended to do. That the law, that our rights don't flow from what their beliefs were, but rather from the appearance of those rights in the Constitution.
Well, if it became the positivism or the positive law of the Constitution, then why is natural law being advocated? The concept that if it is constitutional law, if natural law has progressed to the extent that it is positivism, it is a part of the Constitution, then why all of the great discussion today